So I want to ask you a question. If you've been asked this question before, but do you think that you're talking about here, to me, translates into a competitive advantage in the marketplace?
I think about that as part of what HR is all about. At the end of the day, you land exactly where you just stated that competitive advantage. If you're a CHRO, you are helping drive your organization to success and to meet their goals. Then you are tracking and measuring that. And I realize that we haven't emphasized that data centric iterative process of measuring, reviewing, tweaking, etc. And then you're creating an advantage for your organization through that strategic human capital in which human resources plays a really critical role. Now, one of the things that we haven't talked about is just the nomenclature of human resources. And if that is going to continue to be and remain, and I suspect that it is, but I think it is a fascinating trend that some organizations are looking at this in different ways. Some people are incorporating the word as culture and people and impact, including some of the diversity and inclusion initiatives. Because I think at the center, when we talk about all these things, is really people and the culture and everything that goes under the umbrella of company culture.
What I love about this conversation is that it's such an elevated level of conversation about what HR can do for a company. Where I literally interviewed on this podcast a few weeks ago a chief technology officer that said, we don't really like HR people. If that chief technology officer was thinking how HR is helping us create a competitive advantage through the very people that we acquire that drive the success of our business, that would be a very different internal alignment and conversation that was happening.
I have a great example for that. In my last organization, there was a department that had so many constraints from a talent acquisition perspective constantly. Very specific technology in environments where the compensation continued to increase. It was constantly moving and losing people and the level of expertise. It was not something that you can send someone to a boot camp in 6 months. And the leader of that group, I could see he was open, but I also could see his frustration. And with my CHRO, we looked at everything and invited this individual to have a conversation about the challenges. And then we presented opportunities to that individual. And I can tell you it was time well worth because I think sometimes distance, and that this is one of the why working hybrid or remote presents some challenges. It's really hard to read people and read their energy, their intentions. But when you work with an individual and you are there letting them know, I'm here to work with you to solve these issues, it completely changes the tone. So that's just kind of when you mentioned that, my immediate reaction, it's like, no, we're in this together and let's look and put your strategic hat. How can you add value to that person? And obviously, every company is different. We talked about this, depends on the size, depends of your region or global scope that is going to take you down to different nuances and different pathways. But I think the principles state, and I think one of the things that I want to go back to, and you and I talk about golden unicorns and all that. I think ultimately it doesn't matter if it's a startup that is worth $1 billion or it's a large corporation. I do think there is something to be said about simplicity and keeping things on the fundamentals because transformations get more complicated when you add more layers of bureaucracy to it.